Elara knew the precise moment the world began to soften its edges each day. It wasn't when the sun dipped below the peaks of the Silverhorn Mountains, casting the village of Oakhaven in long purple shadows. Nor was it when the first star, a shy silver pinprick, pricked the deepening blue velvet of the sky. No, it was just before, when the air itself seemed to sigh, carrying with it the scent of pine needles and damp earth from the whispering woods, a vast ancient forest that cradled Oakhaven like a protective, moss-covered arm. Elara's home was a small, round cottage built of river stones and stout oak timbers, its roof a shaggy cap of thatch where moss and tiny wildflowers often bloomed. A wisp of smoke usually curled from its chimney, carrying the comforting scent of Nana Elara's hearth-baked bread or simmering berry stews. Elara loved the evenings best, when the cottage's single window glowed a warm amber invitation against the encroaching twilight, and Nana Elara would hum old tunes while mending socks or spinning wool by the flickering light of the fire. Elara, who was nearing her 10th summer, often sat on the woven rug before the hearth, meticulously polishing the smooth river stones she collected on her walks, or sketching the intricate patterns of leaves she found. She was a quiet child, with eyes the color of the forest floor after a spring rain, deep hazel flecked with green, and hair the color of autumn leaves, always a little wild around her face. While other children in Oakhaven chased fireflies or played games of hide-and-seek among the hay bales, Elara found her greatest joy in observing the smaller, quieter wonders of the world. She knew where the first snowdrops pushed through the thawing earth, where the shyest deer came to drink from the clear stream, and which trees held the most melodious birds' nests. But lately, Elara had begun to notice something new, something that hummed just beneath the surface of the world's familiar sounds. It started subtly, a feeling rather than a sound, like the faint echo of a bell ringing in a distant valley, or the memory of a half-forgotten lullaby. At first, she dismissed it as the wind rustling through the leaves of the great oak that stood sentinel at the edge of their garden, or the murmur of the stream that flowed past their cottage. But the feeling persisted, growing stronger with the twilight, weaving itself into the fabric of the evening air. It was a whisper. Not a whisper of words, not exactly, but a whisper of a presence. It was soft, like the brush of a moth's wing against her ear, or the slow, gentle breathing of the forest itself. It carried no discernible meaning, no language she understood, yet it held a distinct quality, a comforting, almost yearning sound that made the hairs on her arms tingle with a delicious sense of wonder. "Nana?" Elara asked one evening, as the fire crackled merrily and the smell of roasting apples filled the air. "Do you ever hear whispers when it gets dark?" Nana Elara, whose face was a beautiful map of gentle wrinkles and kind smiles, paused her knitting. Her needles, carved from polished hazelnut wood, clicked softly against each other. She peered at Elara over the rim of her spectacles. Her eyes, though faded with age, still held a keen, knowing sparkle. "Whispers, child? The wind, perhaps telling secrets to the trees, or the stream, murmuring of its journey to the great lake. The world is full of sounds if you listen closely enough." Elara shook her head, a stray curl falling across her cheek. "No, not like that. Not the wind and not the stream. It's different. It feels like a feeling, a soft humming sound that isn't really a sound." Nana Elara's smile softened, and she returned to her knitting. "Ah, well, the world holds many mysteries, little one. Some sounds are only for certain ears, and some feelings are only for certain hearts. Perhaps you are simply learning to hear the song of the stars, or the quiet dreaming of the earth." Her grandmother's answer, while poetic, didn't quite satisfy Elara. She knew it wasn't the stars, beautiful as their silent song was. This was something closer, something from the earth itself, and it felt distinctly alive. Over the next few weeks, the whispers became Elara's secret companion. They were strongest when she was alone, particularly when she ventured to the fringes of the whispering woods. The villagers of Oakhaven rarely went deep into the forest. They harvested wood from its edges, gathered berries and medicinal herbs, but the deeper reaches were considered ancient, wild, and best left undisturbed. Nana Elara had told her stories of the forest's age, of trees that had seen centuries come and go, and of roots that delved so deep they touched the very heart of the world. Elara, however, felt an undeniable pull towards its depths, a gentle, insistent tug that grew stronger with each whisper. The whispers seemed to originate there, a soft, undulating hum that beckoned her closer. They were never loud enough to be startling, only ever a delicate presence, like a shared breath. Sometimes they felt like a question, other times like a memory, and sometimes purely like a deep, ancient contentment. One afternoon, armed with a small basket for collecting wildflowers and a pocket full of Nana Ilara's oat biscuits, Ilara decided to follow the whispers. She told her grandmother she was going to the Elderberry Grove, a familiar spot just beyond the last row of village gardens. But her heart thrummed with a different destination in mind. She walked slowly, her small worn leather boots making barely a sound on the mossy path. The familiar scent of pine and damp earth deepened as she passed the last of the cultivated fields and stepped beneath the canopy of the whispering woods. Here, the light filtered through the leaves in dappled patterns, painting the forest floor in shifting mosaics of gold and green. The air grew cooler, fresher, and carried with it the rich earthy smell of mushrooms and decaying leaves. The whispers were stronger here, weaving through the rustle of leaves and the chirping of unseen birds. They seemed to dance around her, soft and playful, like unseen sprites. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sound wash over her, trying to discern its direction. It felt as though it came from everywhere and nowhere all at once, a shimmering veil of sound. Then, a sudden, almost imperceptible shift. A particular strand of the whisper, brighter and more insistent than the others, seemed to draw her slightly to the left, off the well-trodden path. Ilara hesitated for only a moment. Her heart beat a little faster, but not from fear, rather from a thrilling sense of discovery. She pushed through a curtain of thick ferns, their fronds brushing coolly against her face, and stepped into a small, sun-dappled clearing. It wasn't truly a clearing, but rather a space where the trees grew a little further apart, creating a natural amphitheater of ancient oaks and towering silver birches. In the very center of this natural bowl stood a single, magnificent tree. It was unlike any tree Ilara had ever seen. Its trunk was impossibly wide, gnarled and twisted with the weight of centuries, its bark a deep, rich brown, patterned with spirals of emerald moss. Its branches, thick as other trees' trunks, reached towards the sky like ancient, yearning arms, their leaves a vibrant, almost luminous green that seemed to catch the light differently than anything else in the forest. It was clearly very, very old, perhaps even one of those trees Nana Ilara spoke of, whose roots touched the heart of the world. As Ilara stepped closer, the whispers intensified. They emanated directly from the tree, a soft, resonant hum that vibrated through the very air. It wasn't just a sound. It was a feeling of deep peace, of quiet power, of ancient stories sleeping beneath the bark. She reached out a hesitant hand, her fingers trembling slightly, and pressed her palm against the rough, cool bark. A jolt, like static electricity, tingled up her arm. It wasn't unpleasant, but rather a sudden surge of warmth, as if the tree itself was welcoming her touch. And with that touch, the whispers became clearer, more distinct. They weren't words she could understand, but they were no longer just a hum. They were like a chorus of ethereal voices, singing a wordless melody, a song of memory and growth, and the slow, inexorable turning of the seasons. She closed her eyes again, leaning her forehead against the cool bark. She felt the pulse of the tree, slow and steady beneath her hand. And within that pulse, she felt it. The Whis. It wasn't a singular thing, not a creature or a place. It was the collective consciousness of the forest, the ancient, living magic that permeated every leaf, every root, every drop of dew. It was the memory of every sunrise, every rainfall, every creature that had ever lived and died within its embrace. The whispers were its voice, its way of dreaming, its way of being. As she stood there, immersed in the gentle hum, Ilara began to perceive more than just sound. She saw fleeting images behind her closed eyelids, the slow unfurling of a fern frond, the flash of a kingfisher's wing over a stream, the silent growth of a mushroom cap. These were not her own memories, but fragments, echoes of the forest's life, woven into the fabric of the Whis. It was utterly breathtaking, a secret wonder she had stumbled upon, a profound connection to something vast and timeless. Ilara felt a surge of joyful understanding, a sense of belonging she hadn't quite known she was missing. The Whis was not just around her, it was right through her, connecting her to the very heart of the earth. She stayed there for a long time, lost in the silent conversation with the ancient tree, letting the Whis fill her. The oat biscuits remained forgotten in her pocket. Slowly, as the afternoon wore on, and the light began to take on a golden hue, Elara became aware of a subtle change in the whispers. The deep, resonant hum, while still present, was now interspersed with something else. A faint tremor, like a sigh of sadness. The harmonious chorus seemed to waver, and some of the fleeting images Elara perceived were no longer of vibrant life, but of muted colors, of a subtle dimming. She saw a patch of flowers, once brilliant, now slightly faded. A stream, once gurgling merrily, now seemed to flow with a whisper of hesitancy. A pang of unease shot through Elara. The Whis, which had been so full of ancient contentment, now carried a note of quiet distress. It was like a beautiful song that had suddenly struck a dissonant chord. She pulled her hand away from the tree, her fingers tingling, and opened her eyes. The magnificent tree still stood, majestic and ancient, but to Elara's newly attuned senses, it seemed to pulse with a faint, almost imperceptible tremor. The luminous green of its leaves held a subtle paleness she hadn't noticed before, and a few withered brown leaves lay scattered at its base, even though it was still the height of summer. Elara looked around the small clearing. The ferns, though still green, seemed less vibrant, their edges slightly curled. The air, while still cool and fresh, lacked the invigorating vitality it had possessed just an hour ago. The subtle magic that had shimmered in the air now felt thinned. The whispers around her now carried a distinct tone of yearning, a gentle plea. They were not frightened, not angry, but a deep, sorrowful ache that resonated in Elara's own heart. Something was happening to the Whis, to the very magic of the whispering woods. It was fading, slowly, subtly, like a dream dissipating upon waking. Elara felt a deep, instinctive worry. This place, this ancient magic, felt precious, vital. The thought of it dimming, of the whispers falling silent, filled her with a profound sense of loss, as if a part of herself was being taken away. She knew with a certainty that settled deep in her bones that she couldn't just leave it. She stood before the ancient tree, her small hands clasped together, her brow furrowed in concentration. The whispers wound around her, clearer now in their distress, telling a story not of words, but of fading light and ebbing life. She didn't understand why it was happening, or why what was causing it, but she knew she had to find out. Looking back towards the path that led to Oakhaven, the village seemed distant, its concerns suddenly small and ordinary. Her world had expanded, encompassing the silent, vibrant life of the forest and the ancient, troubled heart of the Whis. Elara took a deep breath, the scent of pine and faint sorrow filling her lungs. The sun was beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and rose. Soon Nana Elara would be calling her home for supper. But Elara knew, with a quiet resolve, that her journey into the whispering woods had only just begun. The whispers had called her, shown her their beauty, and now they were asking for her help. And Elara, with her quiet heart and listening ears, felt ready to answer. She just didn't know yet how. The last rays of sunlight stretched long fingers through the canopy, turning the leaves to molten gold and emerald. A cool breeze, carrying the distinct scent of damp earth and ancient magic, rustled through the branches, and with it came the whispers. They were no longer a gentle hum, but a subtle chorus, a soft, insistent plea that tugged at Elara's heart. Glisten, feel, find. Nana Elara's supper bell would ring soon. She could almost hear its cheerful clang echoing across the fields, calling her back to the warmth of the cottage, the smell of baking bread, and the comfort of familiar stories. But the stories the woods were telling now were new, urgent, and seemed to call to a deeper part of her than even Nana's loving voice. Elara took another deep breath, the air thick with the very essence of the forest's longing. She looked back towards the path that led home, then turned her gaze deeper into the twilight-dappled woods. The decision, though unspoken, was made. Tonight, the supper bell would ring unanswered. Her quiet heart felt a surprising surge of resolve. She was not a warrior, nor a powerful sorceress, but she had listening ears, a patient spirit, and a growing sense that these gifts, simple as they were exactly what the woods needed. The whispers seemed to coalesce, no longer scattered, but drawing her attention to a faint shimmering trail on the forest floor. It wasn't light, not exactly, but a subtle luminescence woven into the moss, like stardust scattered by an invisible hand. It pulsed softly, almost imperceptibly, leading deeper into the shadowed trees. "You're showing me the way, aren't you?" Elara murmured, her voice barely a breath against the vastness of the woods. The shimmering moss seemed to brighten in response, a silent affirmation. She followed. Each step was gentle, careful not to disturb the delicate life underfoot. The air grew cooler, and the scent of pine gave way to something richer, earthier, and subtly sweet, like blooming night flowers. The trees here were older, their trunks wider than Elara could stretch her arms around, their branches intertwining to form a dense living cathedral ceiling. Moonlight, now filtering through the thinning canopy, cast intricate patterns on the ground, dancing with the soft glow of the moss trail. Elara noticed changes almost immediately. The familiar chatter of birds had faded, replaced by an ethereal quiet, broken only by the rustle of unseen creatures and the ever-present, soft murmur of the woods themselves. The leaves on some of the older trees, usually a vibrant green, seemed muted, their edges tinged with a faint, almost imperceptible gray. Patches of wildflowers, which usually bloomed in riotous color, drooped, their petals curled inward as if in slumber. It wasn't decay, not yet, but a slowing, a dimming of the forest's vibrant pulse. This is what they need help with, Elara realized, her heart aching for the quiet sorrow she sensed. His woods are growing quiet. The shimmering trail led her past ancient standing stones, their surfaces covered in velvety moss and intricate, forgotten carvings that seemed to glow faintly in the twilight. She passed by a stream that usually babbled with cheerful abandon, but now flowed with a subdued, almost sluggish murmur. Its banks were lined with luminous fungi, casting a soft, otherworldly glow that illuminated her path. Then, she saw it. Clinging to the underside of a giant, gnarled root that snaked across her path, was a creature unlike anything she had ever seen. It was tiny, no bigger than her thumb, and seemed woven from fragments of moonlight and dew-kissed moss. Its body was delicate, moth-like, with wings that shimmered with every color of the forest at dawn, yet were translucent, almost invisible. A soft internal light pulsed within it, a tiny beacon in the gloom. It hovered, quivering slightly, its antennae twitching, seemingly waiting for her. "Hello?" Elara whispered, captivated. The creature darted closer, then away, performing a delicate dance in the air. As it moved, it left behind faint, shimmering trails, like tiny ephemeral brushstrokes of light. It emitted a series of soft, melodious chimes like miniature wind bells. These weren't whispers, but a new, distinct form of communication. Elara, with her listening ears focused intently. The chimes shifted, became more urgent, and the shimmering trails it left behind formed patterns in the air. First, a spiral, then a series of concentric circles, then a gentle, fading curve. It was showing her the decline, the slowing, the dimming. "You're a glimmerwinger, aren't you?" Elara remembered a story Nana Elara had told her, of ancient, magical moths that served as the eyes and messengers of the deepest woods. The glimmering chimed softly, a sound that felt like agreement. It then led her off the shimmering moss trail, deeper into a grove of trees, so ancient their bark was like wrinkled skin, their branches draped with shimmering, silvery lichen. The air here was heavy with an almost palpable magic, but it felt thin, like a tapestry worn threadbare. At the very heart of the grove stood a colossal, hollowed-out tree, its trunk wider than the largest barn in the village. Its inner walls were lined not with wood, but with a strange, crystalline growth that pulsed with a faint, greenish light. This was no ordinary light. It was alive, breathing, radiating a gentle warmth that Elara could feel even from a distance. But the light was dimming. Where it should have been a vibrant emerald glow, it was now a pale, sickly jade, flickering weakly, like a candle about to gutter out. The glimmerwing zipped forward, its tiny light adding a momentary flicker to the larger, fading glow. It landed on the crystalline surface, its own light pulsing in frantic sympathy. It chimed a complex melody of sorrow and urgency, and the shimmering patterns it wove in the air were unmistakable. A great heart, then a dimming light, then a vast network of roots and branches, all fading. "The Lumenwood Heart," Elara whispered, the name coming to her as if the woods themselves had spoken it into her mind. "This is the source of the magic, isn't it? The light for the trees, the water for the streams, the color for the flowers. It's fading." The glimmerwing chimed a mournful affirmation. It drew a new pattern in the air, a small, dark shape, then an outstretched hand, then a circle of quiet, waiting things. It seemed to be saying that something was missing, something that needed to be given to the heart. Elara knelt, placing her hand gently on the ancient bark of the lumenwood tree. She could feel a faint vibration, a slow, tired pulse. "What is it that it needs?" she asked the Glimmerwing, her voice soft but clear. "What can I do?" The Glimmerwing flew to her shoulder, its tiny chimes now softer, more deliberate. It wove a new pattern. A single, delicate flower, its petals unfurling. Then a dewdrop. Then a sound wave, like a gentle song. A flower? A dewdrop? A song? Elara pondered, trying to piece together the message. Does it need a specific kind of flower? Or the dew from a specific flower? The Glimmerwing buzzed impatiently, then flew a short distance away, hovering over a patch of the wilted wildflowers. It pointed its antennae at one particular bloom, a slender plant with closed bell-shaped flowers of a deep sapphire hue. Even in its drooping state, Elara could sense a dormant magic within it. A moon petal, she recognized, remembering another of Nana Elara's tales. They only bloom under the light of a full moon, and their dew holds the essence of starlight. But it's not a full moon tonight, and this one is closed. The Glimmerwing chimed, then drew a new pattern. Elara's ear, then a gentle hum, then the moon petal flower opening. "You want me to sing to it?" Elara asked, a surprised smile touching her lips. The idea was so perfectly in tune with her own quiet nature. She had never thought of her simple humming as magical, but the woods seemed to suggest otherwise. The Glimmerwing vibrated with what felt like excitement. It drew a final, urgent pattern, the moon petal, then the lumenwood heart, then a strong, bright pulse of green light. Elara looked at the wilted moon petal, then back at the fading lumenwood heart. The task seemed simple, yet profound. She was to awaken the moon petal with her song, gather its starlight dew, and bring it to the heart. It was a small step, but a crucial one. "All right," she said, her voice filled with a quiet determination. "I'll try." The Glimmerwing led her to a small, secluded hollow, not far from the lumenwood heart. Here, shielded by a cluster of ancient ferns, grew a single particularly frail moon petal. Its sapphire bells were tightly shut, their surfaces dull. The air around it felt heavy, stagnant. Elara knelt beside the flower, her fingers gently brushing its closed petals. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and thought of the most beautiful, comforting sounds she knew. The gentle lullaby Nana Elara sang, the rustle of leaves in a spring breeze, the soft murmur of the stream when it was happy. She let these memories fill her, then allowed a soft hum to escape her lips. It was a simple melody, wordless, born of the quiet peace within her heart. It was a song of comfort, of gentle awakening, of the quiet magic that lay dormant in all things. She hummed with all the sincerity of her quiet heart, pouring her intent into the sound, willing the moon petal to feel the warmth, the care, the invitation to unfurl. At first, nothing happened. The moon petal remained closed, a small stubborn bud against the gloom. Elara didn't stop. She kept humming, her voice a soft, continuous stream of sound, her focus unwavering. The Glimmerwing, perched on a fern frond, pulsed with a gentle rhythm, its light seeming to encourage her. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the dullness on the moon petal's petals began to fade. A faint internal shimmer appeared, like a spark deep within its sapphire bells. Elara's hum deepened, growing richer, more resonant, yet still soft. She wasn't trying to force it, but to coax it, to remind it of its own inherent beauty. Then, a miracle. One by one, the delicate sapphire bells began to unfurl. It was a slow, graceful dance, each petal unfurling with exquisite slowness, revealing a luminous inner core that pulsed with a soft, silvery light, like captured starlight. A sweet ethereal fragrance, like night-blooming jasmine mixed with pure moonlight, filled the air. Elara continued to hum, a joyful note now woven into the melody. As the last petal unfurled, a single perfect dewdrop appeared at the very heart of the flower, shimmering with an intense otherworldly silver light. It was the starlight dew, infused with the essence of the moon petal's magic. "You did it," Elara whispered, her hum finally fading into silence. The Glimmerwing darted around the now fully open moon petal, its chimes echoing the joy Elara felt. Carefully, Elara cupped her hands beneath the dewdrop. With utmost gentleness, she tilted the flower, and the single luminous drop rolled into her palms. It felt cool, almost impossibly light, and pulsed with a gentle warmth against her skin. It was more than water. It was concentrated magic, the very essence of moonlight and starlight. "Now, to the Lumenwood heart," she murmured, rising to her feet. The Glimmerwing led the way, a tiny beacon of hope, back towards the ancient hollowed tree. When they reached the Lumenwood heart, its dim green glow seemed even weaker than before, a mere whisper of its former brilliance. Elara approached the crystalline inner wall, her heart thrumming with a mix of awe and purpose. She held out her cupped hands, the starlight dewdrop gleaming like a tiny liquid star. "Please," she whispered to the heart, to the woods, to the magic itself. "Let this help." She gently let the dewdrop fall. It didn't splash or dissipate. Instead, as it touched the crystalline surface, it seemed to melt into it, spreading outwards in a ripple of silver light that pulsed and intertwined with the faint green. The green light intensified, slowly at first, then with a growing strength, pushing back the shadows, bathing the hollowed tree in a vibrant emerald glow. The very air within the grove seemed to sigh with relief. The faint grayness on the leaves of the surrounding trees lessened, and Elara could almost hear a faint collective murmur of gratitude from the woods. The Lumenwood heart wasn't fully restored, but it was brighter, stronger, its pulse more steady, its warmth more palpable. A wave of revitalizing energy seemed to flow outwards from it, seeping into the earth, climbing the trees, reaching towards the farthest corners of the forest. The Glimmerwing, hovering near Elara, chimed a joyful, triumphant melody, its own light pulsing brilliantly. It drew a new pattern in the air, Elara's quiet heart, then the bright Lumenwood heart, then a winding path leading further into the woods. Elara knew, then, that this was only the beginning. The Lumenwood heart was stronger, but not fully healed. There was more to do, more to find, more magic to rekindle. The whispers were no longer sorrowful pleas, but a gentle guiding chorus calling her deeper. The vast ancient forest with its secrets and its beauty was still waiting. And Elara, with the memory of the starlight dewdrop's warmth still on her skin, felt ready to answer. Elara took a deep breath, the scent of damp earth and sweet unknown blossoms filling her lungs. The path before her, barely visible save for a faint shimmering dust that seemed to cling to its surface, beckoned. It wound not upwards or downwards, but simply deeper, twisting between roots as thick as ancient boulders and beneath canopies so dense that only slivers of the Lumenwood's gentle glow pierced through. The familiar luminescence of the trees around the heart began to fade, replaced by a softer, more diffused light that seemed to emanate from the very air itself, a magical twilight. The whispers grew clearer with every step, no longer just a chorus, but a symphony of gentle suggestions, guiding her gaze, nudging her feet. She saw ephemeral motes of light, tiny, sparkling sprites no bigger than fireflies, dancing just ahead, marking the way. They flitted through curtains of shimmering moss that hung from colossal branches, revealing glimpses of hidden alcoves and silent pools. The air grew cooler, carrying the distant murmur of water and a faint, sweet smell, like nectar and old parchment. The path eventually led her to a place where the trees seemed to bow, forming a living archway. Their gnarled branches, interwoven with phosphorescent vines, created a tunnel that pulsed with a deep, emerald light. Beyond it, the forest floor changed. The familiar soft earth gave way to smooth, polished stones, veined with silver and glowing with a soft inner radiance. It was a place untouched by time, a silent, reverent space. This was the Whispering Glade. Here, the whispers were almost tangible, a breath on her cheek, a rustle in the leaves that wasn't wind. They seemed to rise from the very stones beneath her feet, from the luminous moss that carpeted the ground, and from the ancient, sentinel trees that ringed the glade. These trees were unlike any she had seen before. Their bark was like polished obsidian, but within them pulsed a heartbeat of pure, cerulean light. In the center of the glade, a cluster of crystalline flowers bloomed, their petals like spun glass, each holding a drop of dew that shimmered with rainbow hues. As Elara approached, drawn by their ethereal beauty, one of the drops detached itself, hovering in the air. It elongated, forming into a tiny iridescent creature, no bigger than her thumb, with delicate gossamer wings that beat with silent urgency. Its body glowed with a soft internal light, shifting from sapphire to emerald to amethyst. This was Lumiel, a glimmer ring. Lumiel zipped around Elara, its many-faceted eyes, like tiny liquid pearls, observing her with an ancient curiosity. A series of melodious chimes like miniature wind bells emanated from its form, a silent language that Elara instinctively understood. She'll carry the light, the warmth of the first star. Lumiel flew closer, hovering by Elara's hand, where the memory of the starlight dewdrop still lingered. It pulsed gently, as if responding to Lumiel's presence. The heart remembers you, Moan. The heart calls to you. Kenin. How? Lumiel then settled on a crystalline flower, its glow dimming slightly as if in thought. More chimes followed, tinged with a delicate sadness. Her memories, they are fading. The echoing pools grow silent. The forest forgets its own song. Lumiel stood with a tiny glowing antenna, towards a part of the glade hidden by a veil of shimmering mist. Here, the pools lie. Once they held the dreams, the histories, the very soul of the Lumenwood. Now, only echoes remain. Wonder how might at fun. Elara felt a pang of understanding. The Lumenwood wasn't just losing its light, it was losing its memory, its vital connection to its past. How can we awaken them? She whispered, her voice feeling too loud in the silent glade. Lumiel pulsed brighter, its chimes becoming more urgent. Only moon-kissed lilies. Only their essence, infused with the light of a true heart, can stir the pools. They bloom in the shrouded falls, where the moon's tears touch ancient stone. But they are elusive, guarded by the mists of forgetting. Onime, netenoi, kadahoi, chishi. The whispers around them seemed to confirm Lumiel's words, a soft hum of agreement. Elara looked towards the shimmering mist that veiled the entrance to the shrouded falls. It seemed daunting, a place where even light struggled to penetrate. But the warmth of the starlight dewdrop on her skin, and the memory of the Lumenwood heart pulsing with new life, filled her with courage. Then we must find them, she declared, her resolve firm. Lumiel, delighted, zipped into the air, leading the way. Its tiny, glowing form was a beacon, as they ventured towards the shrouded falls. The air grew heavier, thick with moisture, and a peculiar, earthy scent. The crystalline glade gave way to a dense thicket of ancient ferns, their fronds unfurling like giant, emerald wings. The ground became slick with dew, and a pervasive mist began to gather, swirling around their ankles, then rising to their knees, obscuring their path. The mists of forgetting, Elara murmured, remembering Lumiel's words. It wasn't a physical barrier so much as a gentle confusion, a tendency for her mind to drift, for her steps to wander. But Lumiel, darting ahead, its chimes a constant, melodic reminder, kept her focused. It led her through a labyrinth of moss-covered stones and fallen logs, past trees whose branches wept long, silvery strands of lichen. The sounds of the forest changed here. The cheerful chirping of unseen birds and the rustle of playful creatures were absent. Instead, there was only the soft drip of water, the whisper of the mist, and the distant, sonorous roar of a waterfall, the shrouded falls itself. As they drew closer, the mist thickened, becoming a swirling, ethereal curtain. Elara could barely see her own hand in front of her face. How will we find the lilies in this? She wondered aloud, her voice swallowed by the damp air. Lumiel landed on her shoulder, its chimes expressing patience and a hint of ancient knowledge. It pointed a tiny antenna towards a faint, almost imperceptible shimmering in the mist, a soft silver thread woven into the gray. I follow the moonlight's path, even when unseen. Wandima, the house. Elara concentrated, trying to discern what Lumiel meant. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the whispers guide her, letting the warmth of the starlight dewdrop expand within her. When she opened them, she saw it, not with her eyes alone but with a deeper sense. A subtle path, a luminescence within the mist itself, a thread of silver light that seemed to pulse in time with her own heartbeat. It was the residual magic of moonlight, captured and held by the ancient stones of the falls, a path waiting to be reawakened. Following this ethereal trail, Elara and Lumiel pressed onward. The mist swirled more violently now, as if trying to deter them, but the silver thread held true. Soon, the roar of the waterfall was deafening, and the ground beneath their feet became uneven, strewn with wet, glistening rocks. They had reached the heart of the shrouded falls. The waterfall was breathtaking, even through the swirling mist. It plunged from a colossal cliff face, its waters shimmering with an internal light that fractured into 1,000 rainbows as it crashed into a hidden pool below. Around the edges of this pool, nestled in crevices of the ancient water-slick stones, Elara saw them, the moon-kissed lilies. They were exquisite, their petals like spun moonlight, glowing with a soft, pearlescent light. But they were tightly furled, their delicate beauty hidden as if asleep. They needed something more to awaken. Lumiel flew to one of the lilies, circling it with agitated chimes. K sleep, Paniwam and Askans. They need a song, Nei. A song of starlight and memory. Untaria. Elara looked at the lilies, then back at the powerful waterfall. The sound was too overwhelming to hear any song, let alone sing one. But the whispers of the lumenwood, which had guided her this far, now seemed to coalesce into a gentle, wordless melody within her mind. It was a melody of ancient earth, of flowing water, of shimmering starlight, the very essence of the lumenwood. She knelt beside a lily, reaching out a hand. The starlight dewdrops' warmth on her skin pulsed, drawing her attention to it. This was the key. Not just a song, but an infusion. She gently touched the dewdrop, then carefully laid her fingertips against the closed petals of the lily. A wave of warmth spread from her hand, through the lily, and into the very stone it grew from. The whispers around them intensified, becoming a gentle hum of anticipation. Slowly, miraculously, the lily began to unfurl. Its petals peeled back, revealing a heart of pure, radiant moonlight. As it opened, a soft, melodic chime, like a miniature bell, rang out, clear and sweet, cutting through the roar of the falls. Encouraged, Elara moved from lily to lily, repeating the process. With each touch, with each unfurling, another delicate chime joined the growing chorus, until the air was filled with a symphony of lunar music. The mists around them began to thin, drawn away by the pure, resonant light of the awakened lilies. The pool below the falls shimmered with renewed brilliance, reflecting the starry light of the blooms. Lumiel danced in the air, its chimes joyous, its light pulsing with vibrant colors. Kay, remember. The moon-kissed lilies, remember the touch of starlight. Omninedanwadan, Tadante, Awantinde Sil. Elara carefully gathered a handful of the fully bloomed lilies, their soft glow illuminating her hands. They felt alive, pulsing faintly with their own gentle magic. With the lilies secured, and the mists of the shrouded falls now clear enough to reveal the verdant beauty of the surrounding cliffs, Elara and Lumiel made their way back through the fern-choked paths, guided by the rising chorus of the forest's whispers. The journey back to the whispering glade felt swifter, the way clearer, as if the forest itself had opened for them. The emerald glow of the giant archway of roots welcomed them back into the silent, revered space. The crystalline flowers in the center of the glade pulsed brighter, acknowledging the return of the lilies. Lumiel led Elara to the shimmering veil of mist it had indicated earlier. This mist was different. It felt ancient, heavy with dormant magic. With a silent gesture, Lumiel indicated that this was the entrance to the echoing pools. As Elara approached, the mist parted like a curtain, revealing a cavern carved from living stone, its walls studded with glowing crystals that cast a soft, ethereal light. Inside, a series of shallow, interconnected pools lay still and dark. Their surfaces were like polished obsidian, reflecting nothing but the faint glow of the crystals. These were the echoing pools of memory, and they seemed to hold a vast, profound silence. "How do we use the lilies?" Elara whispered, holding out her glowing bounty. Lumiel flew to the largest pool, its chimes conveying a simple instruction. "Place them. Let their light merge. Let them sing their starlight song." Kande. Elara knelt by the edge of the central pool. The water was cool to the touch, but not cold, carrying a faint energy. She gently placed the moon-kissed lilies onto the surface. As they touched the water, a remarkable transformation began. Their pearlescent glow intensified, spreading outwards like ripples of light across the dark surface. The lilies didn't float. They seemed to melt, their essence dissolving into the water, releasing a cloud of luminous dust that slowly swirled and sank. As the last lily dissolved, the pool began to stir. Not with physical movement, but with light. Faint, silvery patterns started to appear beneath the surface, like constellations coming to life. The patterns grew, coalescing into images, fleeting glimpses of the Lumenwood's past. Elara gasped softly. She saw ancient, colossal trees reaching for a sun she'd never known, their leaves ablaze with a riot of color. She saw creatures of light and shadow, long forgotten, dancing through moonlit glades. She saw seasons turn, centuries pass, generations of forest dwellers living out their lives in harmony with the Lumenwood. She saw the heart, vibrant and strong, pulsing with an almost blinding light. These were not just images, they were sensations, emotions, echoes of joy and peace, and the endless flow of life. Lumiel, hovering above the pool, trembled with renewed vigor, its light flashing with newfound clarity. Its chimes now carried a richer, more complex melody, as if it too was remembering. The ancient songs, the dreams of the forest, they awaken. Nwantita. The other pools began to respond, each one filling with its own tapestry of light and memory. The cavern pulsed with a soft living light, the air now humming with the gentle murmur of 1,000 forgotten stories. Elara felt a profound connection to it all, a sense of belonging that settled deep within her heart. The whispers of the Lumenwood, which had guided her from the very beginning, now seemed to rise from the revitalized pools themselves, a chorus of gratitude and renewed life. She could feel the Lumenwood heart, even from here, pulsing with a stronger, more vibrant beat. It wasn't just physical light that returned. It was the very spirit, the wisdom, the memory of the forest that was rekindled. The pools, though still not at their full, ancient brilliance, were alive once more, brimming with the soft, ethereal glow of the Lumenwood's past. But even as the sense of accomplishment washed over her, the whispers began to shift. They were clearer now, more specific, no longer just a general call, but a distinct direction. They spoke of a different kind of silence, a place where the sound eye of the Lumenwood had faded, a realm of forgotten melodies and harmonies. They spoke of the sunken song would sing, a place deep within the forest where the very music of life had fallen quiet. Elara looked towards the entrance of the cavern, a new path forming in her mind. The journey was far from over. The Lumenwood was vast, ancient, and still held many secrets waiting to be rekindled. With Lumiel now resting gently on her shoulder, its chimes bright with shared purpose, Elara knew she had another quest ahead. The warmth of the starlight dewdrop on her skin was no longer just a memory, it was a living promise, a beacon guiding her to the next untold story, the next forgotten magic. The warmth of the starlight dewdrop on her skin was no longer just a memory. It was a living promise, a beacon guiding her to the next untold story, the next forgotten magic. The dewdrop, nestled just beneath her collarbone, began to pulse with a faint, rhythmic glow. It was a gentle thrum, like a faraway heartbeat, that resonated deep within Elara. Lumiel, perched on her shoulder, tilted its crystalline head, its chimes echoing the dewdrop's rhythm, a melody both ancient and new. "It calls to us, Elara," Lumiel whispered, its voice like the rustle of starlit leaves. A deep song, a fading song. Elara felt the pull, a magnetic whisper drawing her deeper into the Lumenwood. She noticed subtle changes as they journeyed. The vibrant emeralds and sapphires of the forest canopy seemed a fraction less brilliant, the usual symphony of buzzing insects and chirping sprites a little more muted. The air, usually thick with the scent of moon blossoms and earth spice, felt heavier, as if holding its breath. Even the luminous moss that lined their path glowed with a fainter, more hesitant light. Something was amiss, a slow, quiet dimming that might go unnoticed by a less attuned heart. Their path led them through groves of towering whisperwood trees, their silver leaves usually rustling with ancient tales, but now standing in hushed stillness. Elara's fingers brushed against the rough bark, seeking the familiar vibrant pulse of life, but found only a faint tremor. The dewdrop pulsed more urgently, its glow intensifying, guiding her around a gnarled root system that looked like sleeping dragons. It was in a clearing where a pool of water usually shimmered with captured starlight, now merely reflected the gray-green canopy that they found him. An ancient, moss-covered creature, resembling a colossal tortoise, lay half submerged in the dulled water. Its shell was a tapestry of luminous fungi and tiny, bioluminescent snails, but its eyes, usually wise and bright, were clouded with a deep sorrow. This was Old Man Rundle, keeper of the Pool of Silent Reflections, a creature as old as the lumenwood itself. "Greetings, little starlight walker," Rundle rumbled, his voice like stones shifting in a deep riverbed. "You feel too, don't you? Don't you? The great sleep, the silence." Elara knelt, her hand instinctively reaching out to touch Rundle's ancient shell. Lumiel landed gently beside her, its chimes a soft questioning query. "What is it, Old Man Rundle?" "The forest feels weary." Rundle sighed, a sound that seemed to shake the very roots beneath them. "The heartwood, the very core of the lumenwood, the great tree from which all magic flows, has fallen into a deep slumber, a sleep born not of weariness, but of a fading connection to the world. Its dreams are troubled, and as it sleeps, so too does the magic of the lumenwood dim." Elara looked up at the towering trees, their ancient branches reaching for a sky that felt suddenly distant. "How can we awaken it?" "Legends speak," Rundle continued. His eyes, though clouded, held a spark of ancient knowledge, of a ritual, not one of force, but of resonance. "The heartwood needs to be sung awake, not with a voice alone, but with the very essence of the lumenwood spirit, gathered from 3 sacred sources. Only one with a heart attuned to starlight and a spirit connected to ancient songs can gather them and rouse the heartwood." He paused, his gaze settling on the pulsing dewdrop on Elara's skin, then on Lumiel's shimmering form. "You, little one, are the one the legends foretold. The starlight within you is the key." Rundle then recounted the 3 components needed. "First, you must find the song of the sun-petal bloomshi. Their warmth and light must be rekindled, for they are the dawn hymns of the forest, the spark of joy. Next, you must seek in the tears of the moonglade willows. Their pure, empathetic sorrow and comfort are the deep waters of emotion, the balm for the heartwood's troubled dreams. And finally, you must ascend to the whisper of the starfall spiring. It holds the cosmic breath, the connection to the wider tapestry of the stars, the thread that weaves magic into being." The task seemed immense, but Elara felt a surge of purpose. The dewdrop pulsed with renewed vigor, and Lumiel vibrated with anticipation. "We will find them, Old Man Rundle," Elara declared, her voice firm. "You will not go alone," Rundle said, a faint smile creasing his ancient face. He nudged a patch of luminous moss near his head. A tiny iridescent beetle sprite, no larger than Elara's thumb, with antennae that glowed like miniature star tips, scurried out. It had quick, nimble legs and eyes that sparkled with boundless energy. "This is Pip," Rundle introduced. "He knows the hidden paths, the secret shortcuts, and the quickest ways to anywhere in the lumenwood. He has been waiting for a purpose such as this." Pip zipped around Elara's head with a joyous hum, its tiny wings beating like miniature wind chimes. "A quest, a grand adventure. I am ready, Elara," its voice high and bright, chirp. With renewed hope and a new companion, Elara, Lumiel, and Pip set off, leaving the quiet sadness of the Pool of Silent Reflections behind them, following the subtle, insistent pull of the starlight dewdrop. "Ye." Their first destination, guided by Pip's unerring sense of direction, was the Ye Sun Petal Gladi. Usually, this clearing was a riot of golden light, where flowers with petals like miniature suns perpetually bloomed, their collective song a warm, golden hum that filled the air with joy and vitality. But as they approached, Elara felt a chill, a stark contrast to the glade's usual warmth. The glade was dim. The sun petals drooped and pale, their once vibrant hues faded to a muted yellow. No buzzing bees, no flitting sun sprites. The air was still, heavy with a silence that felt unnatural. Elara knelt beside a cluster of the largest blooms. Their petals felt cool and brittle to the touch, their song, the very essence of dawn's awakening, completely forgotten. "They need light," Elara murmured, tracing the delicate veins of a petal. "But not just sunlight. They need the memory of dawn, the hope and promise it brings." Pip tipped to a nearby bud, nudging it with his glowing antenna. "They are so sleepy. How do we wake them up?" Elara closed her eyes, holding the starlight dewdrop lightly. She remembered the feeling of first light kissing her skin, the soft glow before the sun rose, the world waking up around her. She hummed a gentle rising melody, a lullaby of sunrise that she had heard sung by the wind through the tall grasses. It was a simple tune, full of quiet expectation and the promise of a new day. As she sang, the starlight dewdrop on her skin began to glow with a soft, ethereal light, not sharp like starlight, but diffused and warm, like the first blush of dawn. She gently pressed the dewdrop against the nearest sun petal bloom. A faint shimmer passed through the petals. Lumiel, understanding, began to chime softly, its crystalline song weaving with Ilara's hum, amplifying the gentle magic. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, a faint golden light began to emanate from the sun petal bloom Ilara touched. The light spread, coaxing its neighbor, then another, until a wave of soft luminescence swept across the glade. The drooped petals began to unfurl, their pale yellow deepening to a rich warm gold. A tiny hesitant hum, like a single bee waking, arose from the glade. Ilara continued to sing, weaving her inner warmth and the dewdrop's gentle magic into the awakening flowers. Soon the hum grew, joined by more and more blossoms, until the sun petal glade was filled with a chorus of golden harmonious sound. It wasn't a loud song, but a deep, pervasive warmth that permeated the very air, chasing away the chill. Bees, drawn by the renewed fragrance, began to buzz, and sun sprites, like tiny motes of golden dust, danced among the now vibrant blooms. From the heart of the glade, a single magnificent sun petal seed pod, usually only found at the height of the glade's vitality, began to glow. It pulsed with a captured golden hum, its surface shimmering with the memory of 1,000 dawns. Ilara carefully plucked it, feeling its gentle warmth radiating into her palm. "The song of the sun petal blooms," she whispered, a sense of quiet triumph filling her. Pip spun around her head, buzzing with excitement. "Unani." Their next destination was the Yi Mumglade, a place of serene mists and ancient willows, whose tears were believed to be pure, liquid moonlight. Pip led them through a winding path, the air growing cooler and thicker with each step, until they emerged into a clearing bathed in an otherworldly silver light. The mist hung heavy, swirling around gnarled, ancient willows whose branches drooped low, touching the ground. But something was wrong. The mist, usually luminous and ethereal, was gray and still. The willows, whose bark was typically slick with the gentle flow of moon tears, were dry and brittle. Their leaves, usually a shimmering silver green, were dull and lifeless. A profound silence hung in the air, a silence that felt less peaceful and more like a stifled sob. Ilara approached the largest willow, its trunk as wide as a small cottage. She laid her hand on its rough, dry bark. "The heartwood's sorrow runs deep here," she murmured. "The willows have stopped weeping." Lumiel's chimes sounded like a mournful sigh. Pip, usually so boisterous, was quiet, his antennae drooping slightly. Ilara knew these willows wept tears of pure empathy, of shared sorrow and comfort. To awaken their tears, she needed to connect with their deep emotions. She sat at the base of the ancient willow, leaning her back against its silent trunk. She closed her eyes, the starlight dewdrop on her skin pulsing with a gentle, comforting warmth. She remembered moments of quiet longing, of empathy for others, of the bittersweet beauty of emotions. She thought of the stories old man Rundle had shared about the Lumenwood's past, of its triumphs and its quiet heartaches. She didn't try to force tears, but rather allowed a deep, quiet well of understanding to open within her. She began to speak softly, not to anyone in particular, but to the silence, to the very spirit of the moonglade. She spoke of the beauty of sorrow, of how it makes joy brighter, of the comfort found in shared understanding. She spoke of the Lumenwood's fading magic, not with fear, but with a gentle plea for renewal, for the awakening of its heart. As she spoke, the starlight dewdrop began to shimmer, its light taking on a pearlescent quality, like moonlight filtering through clouds. Lumiel, sensing the shift, began to hum a soft melancholic tune, its crystalline body glowing with an inner silver light. The air around Ilara grew heavy, not with sadness, but with a profound shared feeling. Slowly, a single glistening tear formed on a drooping willow branch above her. It swelled, caught the pearlescent light of the dewdrop, and fell, landing softly on Ilara's outstretched palm. It was cool and pure, like liquid moonlight. Then another, and another. The willows began to weep, silently at first, then with a gentle, comforting sigh that filled the glade. The mist began to swirl, not gray and heavy but luminous and silver, imbued with the empathetic tears. The willow's bark glistened, their leaves regained their shimmering silver-green hue. The air filled with a sense of profound peace, a comforting balm for the soul. From the heart of the largest willow, a shimmering moon-petal vial, crafted by nature's delicate touch, slowly emerged, filled to the brim with the purest, most luminous moon tears. Elara carefully took it, feeling the deep, empathetic connection it held. "The tears of the moon-glade willows," she breathed, a profound sense of peace settling over her. Pip, his antennae now bright again, nuzzled her hand, a silent comfort. The final component awaited them at the Yi Starfall Spirene. Pip led them on an arduous climb through increasingly ancient and gnarled parts of the Lumenwood, until the canopy opened above them, revealing a towering crystalline formation that pierced the sky. The Starfall Spire was magnificent, a colossal shard of pure crystal, said to be where the very first falling star landed, anchoring the Lumenwood to the cosmos. But as they drew near, Elara saw that the spire, usually glittering with captured starlight, was dull and opaque. No faint hum of cosmic energy, no shimmering light. It stood silent and inert, a monument to a forgotten connection. The air around it felt thin, disconnected, as if the very fabric of reality was stretched here. "It's lost its song to the stars," Elara whispered, craning her neck to gaze at its summit, which seemed to scrape against the inky blackness of the upper canopy. "The spire needs to hum again," Pip chirped, buzzing around the base. "It's usually so sparkly." Elara knew this was where Lumiel's unique connection to starlight would be crucial. The spire needed to remember its cosmic heritage, to reconnect to the vast shimmering tapestry of the night sky. The climb up the spire was treacherous. Its crystalline surfaces, usually rough with tiny handholds, were now smooth and slick. Elara had to find ancient moss-covered vines that snaked up its sides, testing each one carefully. Lumiel, light as air, flew ahead, its chimes guiding her. Pip, with his nimble legs, scurried up cracks and crevices, pointing out secure footholds. Finally, they reached a wide, flat platform near the spire's summit, a natural amphitheater of crystal. Here, the air was clearer, and through the breaks in the canopy they could see glimpses of the true night sky, sprinkled with distant stars. Elara stood in the center of the platform, the sun-petal seed pod and moon-petal vial carefully placed beside her. She held the starlight dewdrop. Lumiel settled on her shoulder, its crystalline body humming with a faint, insistent energy. "Lumiel," Elara whispered. "The spire needs to feel the stars again. It needs to remember its song." Lumiel nodded, its facets shimmering. Elara placed the starlight dewdrop gently against Lumiel's crystalline surface. The dewdrop pulsed brightly, its light flowing into Lumiel, merging with its inner glow. Lumiel began to vibrate, its chimes rising in pitch, becoming a pure, resonant tone that seemed to cut through the silence. Elara closed her eyes, focusing her intent. She imagined the vastness of space, the countless stars, the ancient, silent hum of the cosmos. She channeled this image, this feeling, through the dewdrop and into Lumiel. Lumiel's chimes became a chorus, echoing off the crystalline walls of the spire, a melody that seemed to reach out into the void. Slowly, the dull surface of the spire began to shimmer. Faint lines of light, like veins of silver, appeared within the crystal, growing brighter, tracing intricate patterns that pulsed with a gentle rhythm. The air around them began to crackle with an unseen energy, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper, like the distant breath of the universe. The spire was waking. It was remembering its connection. The whisper grew, not a sound heard with the ears, but felt in the very bones, a profound cosmic resonance. From a recess in the spire's summit, a perfectly spherical starweave orb, woven from pure shimmering starlight, slowly emerged, vibrating with the captured whisper of the cosmos. Elara carefully took it, feeling its profound ancient energy. "The whisper of the Starfall Spire," she said, her voice filled with awe. "Wohantai." With all three components gathered, a palpable sense of anticipation settled over Elara, Lumiel, and Pip, Dartkill. The starlight dewdrop on Elara's skin glowed with a steady, vibrant light, a beacon guiding them to the heartwood itself. Pip, buzzing with barely contained energy, led the way, his glowing antennae twitching excitedly. Their journey to the heartwood was unlike any other. They ventured into the deepest, most ancient part of the lumenwood, a place rarely trodden by any living creature. The trees here were colossal, their trunks gnarled and twisted into fantastical shapes, their branches forming a canopy so dense that only slivers of light filtered through, creating an eternal twilight. The air was thick with the scent of ancient earth and forgotten dreams, a heavy, almost reverent stillness. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, only the soft rustle of their own footsteps broke the profound silence. Finally, they arrived. Before them stood the heartwood, a tree of such immense size and age that it defied description. Its bark, usually a tapestry of woven starlight and living constellations, was dull and gray, like petrified wood. It was immense, a silent colossus, its mighty branches reaching up as if in a plea to the heavens. A faint, almost imperceptible pulse emanated from its massive trunk, like a dying heart struggling to beat. Surrounding the heartwood was a circular clearing, paved with smooth, luminescent stones. Intricate carvings adorned the stones in the base of the heartwood, ancient runes and symbols depicting celestial bodies, weeping willows, and blooming sun petals. In the center of the clearing, directly before the heartwood, were 3 depressions, perfectly sized for the items Ilara carried. "This is it," Ilara whispered, her voice barely audible in the profound silence. Lumiel settled gently on her shoulder, its chimes a soft, encouraging melody. Pip for once was completely still, his eyes wide with awe. Ilara walked to the center of the clearing. She carefully placed the sun petal seed pod, still radiating its gentle warmth, into the first depression. A faint golden light shimmered across the carved sun petal symbol on the stone. Next, she set the moon petal vial, its liquid moonlight shimmering with empathetic tears, into the second depression. A silver glow traced the carved weeping willow. Finally, she placed the starweave orb, pulsing with cosmic energy, into the third. The carved star symbol ignited with a faint, ethereal blue. She stood before the colossal, silent heartwood, holding the starlight dewdrop. She remembered Old Man Rundle's words, "Only one with a heart attuned to starlight and a spirit connected to ancient songs can gather them and rouse the heartwood." She realized it wasn't just about collecting the items, it was about here. She was a conduit, the bridge between the fading magic and its renewal. Closing her eyes, Ilara took a deep breath, feeling the combined energy of the 3 components resonating around her, echoing the rhythm of the dewdrop on her skin. Lumiel flew from her shoulder, circling her head, its chimes weaving an intricate, rising melody. Then, Ilara began to sing. It wasn't a song she had learned, nor one she had consciously composed. It was a melody that rose from within her, guided by the starlight dewdrop, woven from the warmth of the sun petal's joy, the deep emotion of the moonglade's tears, and the vast silent whisper of the starfall spire. Her voice, usually soft, now resonated with a clear, pure power, a primal song of awakening and renewal. As her song filled the ancient chamber, the starlight dewdrop on her skin flared with brilliant, pure light. Tendrils of this starlight extended, flowing into the heartwood, like silvery roots taking hold. The sun petal seed pod, moon petal vial, and starweave orb pulsed in unison, releasing their captured magic. Golden light, silver mist, and ethereal blue energy flowed from them, surging into the heartwood's dull bark, tracing the ancient carvings with vibrant life. The heartwood shuddered. It was a deep, resonating tremor that shook the ground, not violent, but profound, like a giant taking its first breath after a long sleep. A deep, soft hum began to emanate from its colossal trunk, growing stronger, deeper, filling the entire clearing with a living sound. Slowly, incredibly, the dull, gray bark of the heartwood began to shimmer. First a faint iridescence, then vibrant colors bloomed across its surface, deep emeralds, sapphire blues, ruby reds, and shimmering golds, all woven with threads of pure starlight. The ancient runes around the chamber glowed with renewed power, casting dancing patterns of light onto the surrounding trees. The heartwood let out a sound that was not a roar, but a deep, contented sigh, a sound of profound relief and awakening. A wave of vibrant energy, a surge of pure, exhilarating magic, rippled out from the heartwood, sweeping through the entire lumenwood. Ilara felt it pass through her, a rush of life and joy, connecting her to every leaf, every root, every living creature in the forest. The lumen wood was reborn. Colors outside the chamber brightened to impossible vibrancy. The air hummed with renewed energy, filled with the joyous chorus of awakening creatures. The heartwood itself now glowed with a steady, gentle light, radiating life and magic, its branches reaching once more towards the heavens, vibrant and alive. Elara stood, breathless, the echo of her song still lingering in the air. She felt a profound connection to the forest, a sense of belonging so deep, it felt as if her very being was intertwined with its roots and branches. The starlight dewdrop on her skin, no longer just a promise or a beacon, now glowed with a steady, comforting warmth, a fulfillment of its purpose, a testament to the magic rekindled. En noshi, antanwas, adia manaway, amorinjana, kadi. The awakening of the heartwood was not an end, but a glorious new beginning. Elara didn't leave the lumen wood. She had found her true home, her true purpose. The heartwood, in its awakened state, bestowed upon her a silent gift, a deeper understanding, a profound sense of being intricately woven into the forest's living magic. Her ability to sense forgotten magic was now not just a skill, but an instinct, a whisper in her soul that guided her. She could faintly hear the heartwood's soft, constant hum, a lullaby of life that nourished her spirit. She became a guardian, a rekindler, a keeper of the lumenwood's enduring magic. Her days were no longer filled with frantic quests, but with the quiet joy of discovery. With Lumiel ever on her shoulder, its chimes now bright with the vibrant energy of a fully awakened forest, and Pip, still buzzing with boundless enthusiasm, darting ahead to explore every new scent and sound, Elara continued to explore. She learned the forest's ancient secrets, not from faded texts, but from the rustling leaves, the bubbling streams, and the wise whispers of ancient creatures. She helped where she could, guiding lost sprites, encouraging hesitant saplings, and sharing stories that kept the lumenwood's magic alive and thriving. She was no longer just a girl who found magic. She was a part of it, a living, breathing testament to its power. Many years passed, or perhaps only a few. Time in the lumenwood flowed differently now, imbued with the heartwood's gentle rhythm. Elara, though still young in spirit, had become a beloved figure, her presence a comforting warmth throughout the forest. She would often sit beneath the boughs of the heartwood, its shimmering light bathing her in its gentle glow. Lumiel nestled beside her, its chimes a soft, contented lullaby. The starlight dewdrop on her skin pulsed faintly, a constant reminder of the day she helped the lumenwood breathe again. The lumenwood was vast, ancient, and still held countless wonders, but Elara no longer felt the urgency of a grand quest. She knew that every sunrise was a new, untold story, every rustle of leaves a forgotten magic waiting to be remembered. And with the heartwood beating strong and her own spirit intertwined with its eternal song, Elara was ready. She closed her eyes, a soft smile on her lips, enveloped in the enduring, enchanting magic of the lumenwood, finally home, finally at peace.